Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Protection on a Roll, MAPEI's Sheet Membrane Systems. We have some brief housekeeping today before we start. Your phones are on mute. If you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box in the corner of your screen, and we'll answer them at the end of today's session, time permitting, or via email after. And you can always send questions to mapeidigital@mapei.com. Now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Sonia Masti, and she'll be joined by a special guest today, Sean Mitchum, for the Q&A portion. Sonia has been launching products for more than 20 years. Her career in manufacturing began in plastics, where she launched several lines of food service packaging products for Dart Container Corporation. She began working at MAPEI in 2015 and led the resurgence of North American Adhesives brand. Today, Sonia is the product manager of crack isolation and sound reduction and floor heating membranes. She's going to be joined by Sean Mitchum. Sean has been with MAPEI for 16 years, and he's one of our technical services managers. So with that, I welcome them to the microphone. Sonia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are in the country. So I'm going to be talking about our sheet membranes that we offer here at MAPEI. They are our peel and stick sheet membranes, primarily for crack isolation and sound control. But we do have some excellent, exciting news today. We are launching these also to provide waterproofing and vapor management. So this is kind of big news, and you all are the first hearing it. I'm going to be talking about 4 products for crack ice for these features. MAPEI does offer a wide variety of other products and other membranes, but I won't be talking about those today. I'm specifically talking about peel and stick sheet membranes, as well as the primers that go with them. I also just kind of want to frame this discussion about what we're not going to be talking about, and I'm assuming that the folks watching this webinar are contractors and folks that have some pre-knowledge about how to install these systems. I'm not going to be talking about the installation methods themselves. For instance, I'm assuming that you know that there are 2 methods for handling cracks. Full treatment and partial treatment is outlined in TCNA F125-11. So I'm not going to be talking about how to handle those differently. I'm assuming you know. And if you don't, you can certainly read that standard or watch a YouTube video probably. There is a difference between in-plane and out-of-plane cracks, and MAPEI membranes only handle in-plane cracks. So the products I'll be talking about today only handle in-plane cracks. If it's out-of-plane cracks, it's a whole different ballgame. I'm assuming you have some basic understanding of sound control numbers, because I'm going to be talking about IIC, STC, and Delta IIC numbers, and I'm not going to go into what those mean specifically, but if you don't know what those numbers are, I encourage you to do a little research. And then also there are a variety of ceiling assemblies in multi-story construction, such as 6-inch slab, 8-inch slab, with or without ceilings, and plywood construction. I'm not going to go into the specifics of it, but I will be referencing those. So why MAPEI's membranes are important for flooring installation. This is kind of an interesting graphic. What it's showing is a concrete slab with a crack in it, laid on top with crack isolation membrane. So the blue and the green represent the crack isolation membrane, and then there's mortar and tile on top. If that crack isolation membrane were not there, that mortar and tile would be one with the concrete. And if there were a crack in that concrete, that crack would flow up into the mortar and crack the tile. Because there's this crack isolation membrane, which is made of bitumen, which is the blue layer shown here, and the fiberglass mat, the green layer, the crack stops at the bitumen. I'm going to show you, if you can see me, this is, because in that graphic, the membrane looks pretty thick, but it's really not that thick. This is what it looks like. And you can see it's very thin, and it's peel and stick. This is the exposing the bitumen layer here underneath, and this is just the film that you can peel back. And this is what it looks like. It's very thin, very easy, you know, pretty flexible. And we're going to be talking about 4 different types of these. back. Okay. So the bitumen layer and the fiberglass mat effectively isolate cracks up to 3/8 inch in concrete subfloor from the tile floor covering. And the membranes I'm talking about today meet or exceed ANSI A 118.112, which is crack isolation for tile and stone. So how do these sheet membranes work? Bitumen is an ideal material for crack isolation membranes because it is viscoelastic. Viscoelasticity is the property of materials that exhibit both viscous and elastic characteristics when undergoing deformation. Viscous materials are things that flow, like water, and elastic materials are things that stretch and go back to the original place, like think about a rubber band. So what's interesting about this particular product with the bitumen underneath is that when this bitumen, which is in direct contact with the concrete, when it is under stress or being pulled, that bitumen becomes fluid-like and it moves and it's isolating the tile on top. And then when the stress is gone, it goes back to its original formation. And that's basically how it works. Viscoelasticity enables bitumen to maintain bond to a cracking concrete subfloor without transfer of stress to mortar or tile. This shows just a typical installation system. And here you can see number one is what's showing is the concrete substrate. Number two is primer. So all of these products, they require that the substrate be primed to enhance the bond between the concrete and the bitumen. And then number three shows the crack isolation membrane going on top of the primer. And then polymer modified mortar goes right on top of the membrane. And then you tile and stone on top of that. So it's a very easy installation. Peel and stick, very easy to put together. So these are the four membranes that we're going to be talking about today that MAPEI offers. MAPEGuard CI, MAPEGuard 2, MAPESound 90, and MAPESonic 2. You'll notice there's an asterisk on MAPESound 90, and the reason for that is that that particular product is only available in Florida. We introduced it in Florida because of a competitive reason, a competitive situation where they needed a 90 mil thick product, which is not necessary in the rest of the country. But the next row shows what kind of features we can promote with each of these membranes. So for instance, MAPEGuard CI, we can offer crack isolation, waterproofing, and vapor management. You'll notice sound control is excluded from that first one. Now this is new news for pretty much probably everybody watching this. In the past, we have only promoted these products for crack isolation and sound. So today is the first time we are promoting these products for waterproofing and vapor management. And I'm going to be talking about two new MAPEI products that one we already have launched and one we are launching, that make it possible to use these products, these membranes, for waterproofing and vapor management. And then you can see that MAPEGuard 2, MAPESound 90, and MAPESonic 2 are able to offer 4-in-1 membranes. They do crack isolation, sound reduction, waterproofing, and vapor management. The next row is just the amount of square feet each roll offers in coverage. MAPEGuard CI 225, MAPEGuard 2 225, MAPESound 90 115 square foot per roll, and MAPESonic 2 160 square feet per roll. And they're arranged from left is the least expensive to the most expensive. So it's kind of like a good, better, best order that I'm showing here. And probably the typical general price to the market might be anywhere between 50 cents per square foot, anywhere to maybe $1.25, $1.40 per square foot. It's kind of the price range that we're talking here. The thickness, anywhere from 59 mils, which is basically very thin, on 1 mil, up to 90 mils. These can be used on a variety, used with a variety of flooring types, so tile or wood, or in the case of MAPESonic 2, tile, wood, and vinyl, LVT, LVP. You can see which ones are rated for industrial versus which ones are rated for light commercial. All 4 of them offer the split back release liner, and that's the release liner that is this thin piece of plastic that easily comes off. And they're all bitumen based, which is that black basically like kind of like asphalt, and it's sticky. That's bitumen. So they do offer, some of these do offer sound control. So sound control is governed by ANSI A 118.13, bonded sound reduction membranes for thin set ceramic tile installations. And the two products that I'm showing here are MAPEISonic 2 and MAPEIGuard 2. And I'm just showing one assembly. So this is the 6-inch slab assembly. You know, there's the 8-inch slab and then there's wood, but if I put all those numbers up on one screen, it's kind of overwhelming. So I'm going to show them, I'm going to show two assemblies separately. So this is just a 6-inch slab assembly. And you can see MAPEISonic 2, for instance, the finished floor is either tile or vinyl, and we have ratings for both tile and vinyl. And the next column is the IIC ratings with a ceiling or without a ceiling. So for instance, MAPEISonic 2 on a 6-inch slab with tile on top gets a 70 IIC rating with a ceiling and a 50 IIC rating with no ceiling. The STC rating is 66 with a ceiling, 52 with no ceiling, and then the Delta IIC is 21. And then you can see next what the ratings are under if the finished floor is vinyl. And next is MAPEIGuard 2, and you can see what the ratings are for a finished floor of tile versus engineered wood. So looking at this, just think to yourself, I'm going to ask the question, if you have a project that is going on a 6-inch slab, and it's going to be ceramic tile for the finished floor, which of these two products offers the better sound control? Just think about that for a second by looking at the numbers. The answer is MAPEISonic 2. So it has a higher IIC rating than MAPEIGuard 2. You can see that under tile, it's got a 70 with no ceiling versus MAPEIGuard 2 has a 64. And also the Delta IIC. MAPEISonic 2 has a 21 versus MAPEIGuard 2 has a 16. So in this instance, MAPEISonic 2 would be the better choice if you need sound control on a 6-inch slab and tile is the finished floor. Next, we're going to show the numbers for the 8-inch slab assembly. Now, in this case, only MAPEISonic 2 has ratings for an 8-inch slab assembly. So if your project is an 8-inch slab assembly, then your only choice, and you need sound, the only choice is to use MAPEISonic 2. And you can see what the ratings are here. So with tile, you get a 72 with a ceiling or a 50 with no ceiling, STC 66 versus 57. But we also do have some ratings here for vinyl and wood. So next we're going to talk about the primers. Which primer should I use for my concrete slab? MAPEI has, for years, we've offered SM Primer and SM Primer Fast, two excellent primers that have been in the market for a long time. We recently launched in the fall of last year MAPEI HM Primer, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about HM Primer on the next slide. But just real quick to be able to compare the difference, it really depends on how much moisture you have in your slab. So if you need an MVER of up to 5 pounds, SM Primer is your primer. SM Primer Fast can go up to 8 pounds MVER. And HM Primer can go up to 15 pounds MVER. And MVER is defined as the maximum amount of acceptable moisture in a concrete substrate per 1,000 square feet per 24 hours using an ASTM 1869 calcium chloride test kit. When it comes to the relative humidity, SM Primer can go up to 80%, SM Primer Fast can go to 85%, and HM Primer can go to 95%. And I want to point out that these primers do not provide moisture control by themselves. They must be used with the membranes to provide these kinds of protections. In and of themselves, the primer is not a moisture control product. But the primers are designed to enhance the bond between the membrane and the substrate. And it's the ability of these primers to handle different moisture levels. And specifically, HM Primer is the one that we recently launched that is able to handle 15 pounds. And should you put it on a concrete slab with a lot of moisture, it can handle that moisture. The primer is not going to re-emulsify and lose the bond. So this is the new HM primer, and these are some of the features. It's a water-based interior-exterior primer for sheet membranes. It's ready to use, no mixing or dilution required. It's easy to apply with a roller or brush, fast drying, allowing sheet membranes to be installed within 20 minutes. It bonds to a wide variety of substrates, including non-porous concrete and metal. So this primer does bond to metal, such as steel. The other two primers do not. It's low in odor, and also it has a very aggressive tack. It's extremely tacky, actually, and improving the adhesion of peel and stick membranes to many of these substrates. And this is just kind of an at a glance if you wanted to see how these primers relate to each other, whether it's in interior applications or exterior applications. You can see that the top one, MAPEI HM primer, can be used in interior applications, below grade, on grade, or above grade, and it can be used in exterior applications, below grade, on grade, or above grade. Whereas SM primer and SM primer fast, they cannot be used below grade, whether in interior or exterior applications. And in exterior, it cannot be used on grade as well. So that's kind of the difference. If you need something that does interior and exterior and all those grades, HM primer is your primer. Waterproofing. So this is really exciting. This is the first time that we are promoting these membranes as waterproofing membranes. It's not in all environments. So the first bullet is for installations requiring TCNA environmental exposure class Res 1, Res 2, Res 6, COM 1, COM 2, or COM 6. So basically environments that are adjacent to wet environments. So we do not recommend that you use these membranes on shower floors or in submerged applications or floors subject to standing water. But it can go in a bathroom, a laundry room, kitchen, exterior covered balcony, things like that. The exterior applications must be appropriately sloped to prevent standing water. Now here's the key. We're launching a tape called MAPEI Tape BB in the next couple weeks, and this tape is what's used to seal the seams that makes the waterproofing possible. So seal the seams in walls with MAPEI Tape BB, a new butyl-based sealing tape which goes under the membrane, not on top. I'm going to show what that looks like in an assembly or in a system here. So what we're showing here is, you can see the substrate, that in this case concrete. The next material is primer, and then the MAPEI Tape BB goes on top of the primer, and there's a clear release liner on one side of the MAPEI Tape BB. The release liner gets peeled, the MAPEI tape goes on top of the primer, and then the crack isolation membrane goes on top of that, and you would center your seam over the tape. And the crack isolation membrane bonds to the MAPEI Tape BB. You'd roll out the whole thing afterwards with a roller, and then apply mortar and tile on top. And now you have a waterproof system using MAPEI Tape BB to seal the seams. So this is very exciting. This is new for MAPEI for these particular 4 membranes. So we're real excited to announce this. And we are also able to offer water vapor management protection. The standard is ASTM E96, standard test for water vapor transmission of materials, and these materials do pass. The membrane itself is vapor impermeable, 0.0 perms. The challenges in the past have been the seams. Number 2, another challenge is the integrity of the primer's bond strength in high moisture environments. So like I had said before, previously we'd only offered SM primer and SM primer fast, and with vapor coming up from the substrate, those 2 primers were not sufficient to be able to handle that kind of moisture over the long term. So with the launch of HM primer, that primer is able to handle it. And also that vapor pressure buildup, we need a primer that has a very strong bond. And I had mentioned that HM primer has a very tacky, it's very tacky. So the solution is, if you're needing vapor management with these membranes, prime the substrate first with MAPEI HM primer. Do not prime with SM primer or SM primer fast. and underneath the membrane, use that MAPEI Tape BB for sealing the seams, walls, upturns, and corners. And now you're able to have this membrane be used for vapor management. These are some suitable substrates: fully cured concrete, cement mortar beds and leveling coats, cement backer units, properly prepared cement and epoxy terrazzo floors, and well-bonded ceramic tile and natural stone, well-bonded VCT, gypsum-based subfloors or gypsum-based self-levelers, interior floors and dry areas only, APA Group 1 and CanPly 0121 exterior grade plywood, OSB, plywood or OSB, steel subfloors when primed with HM primer, MAPEI's Planacell PMB, and MAPEI's MAPELASTIC Aqua Defense and MAPELASTIC Turbo. So those are approved substrates. So with that, that ends my presentation. We're going to go ahead and open it up if there's any questions in the chat box, or feel free to ask questions. Myself or Sean are here to help answer questions.
Okay, back on here. Can you hear me, Sonia?
I can.
Okay, perfect. We have some. Okay, the first one is, can these membranes be used for floated wood or vinyl flooring?
Can these floors be used for floated wood or vinyl flooring? The answer is yes for floated wood. They can be used for floated engineered wood or hardwood. The answer for vinyl is maybe. So, and the issue, and the reason I said maybe for floated vinyl floors is because of the seams. The seams would need to be butted very tightly together with no gap, because the risk is the seams telegraphing up through soft vinyl. If it's a very hard vinyl, probably not an issue, but if it's soft vinyl, there could be an issue. And we don't want those seams to telegraph up to the vinyl. But good question.
Aha, okay. It says here, you stated exterior under roof. Is this the only exterior application? Again, must have covered space.
So it can be used in an exterior environment, under a cover. Not sure I understand the rest of the question.
Let's see, let me try to puzzle this out. Is this the only exterior application? Must have covered space?
Yeah, we would want it to have covered space up top.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Okay. When will the tape system with this be available?
We will have the technical data sheet for MAPEI Tape BB will be on our website in the next week or two, and we'll have inventory on March 1st.
All right. Any maximum MVR or RH percentage? I'm assuming. And
we did have a slide on that, and if you need high MVER limit or RH, HM primer has a MVER of 15 pounds and 95% RH.
Great. Okay, let's see. If it can be used for floating wood floors, how does it get installed? Do you just not peel the cover sheet?
Well, you would still lay the membrane down on the substrate, and you would peel back the release liner, and this is sticky. This would stick to the substrate, and then your floated floor goes right on top, just without any adhesives.
Cool. All right, another question. What's the pH limitation of HM primer?
Don't quote me on it. I want to say 12. I'd have to look at the technical data sheet. It is on the website. I want to say it's 12.
Here's an interesting one. We have a project asking for a 1-inch thick rubber sports flooring to be installed. Can any CI membrane be used under the rubber sports flooring with the substrate having cracks?
Sean, can I turn this one to you?
I'm looking up the pH for the HM primer, and that's 12.
It is 12.
So
Nice.
while looking that up, I didn't hear the question. Could we repeat it?
Sure. They have a project that's asking for a 1-inch thick rubber sports flooring to be installed. Can any CI membrane be used under the rubber sports flooring and the substrate has cracks?
The initial easy response to that is yes. But you would always defer to the manufacturer of the flooring's instructions. If they require it to be glued down, then it would need to be. But as far as loose laying over top of one of the bituminous membranes, that would be acceptable,
Okay,
pending the manufacturer's instructions of the flooring.
gotcha. Oh, why would you need crack ISO under rubber?
Yeah, that's a
I'm
good
not sure I understand that question.
Yeah, the question is why would you need crack isolation
Crack
under
ISO
the rubber?
under rubber.
And if the rubber sports floor, yeah, it doesn't crack. Why would you need crack isolation for a rubber finish?
Interesting question. I guess
If they wanted to email us the specifics or put it in the chat and with their email address, we could get back to them.
exactly. I guess the short answer would be because in that case, that's what the specification is calling for. Yeah.
Well, then the other point of that is if you were going to install it as a vapor emission or a vapor control system so that it didn't accumulate under the rubber flooring, that would be of assistance. And then if you needed to waterproof the general area, the sports flooring in itself is not going to be a waterproofing, whereas the BB tape and the bituminous membrane would give you that benefit. So if it's an area that needed to be waterproofed, then that would be a good reason to do it.
Interesting question. Can we not glue the 1-inch sports floor to the membrane with Echo 570?
Once more, that's going to come back to the manufacturer of the flooring on what type of adhesive they recommend.
Interesting. Very interesting questions, guys. All right, here's another one.
I mean, while we wait for another one, there are certain rubber flooring manufacturers that only allow a urethane adhesive to adhere them. So that's why I say it's going to depend on what their recommendations are.
Good point. Another question, can SLU go on top of these membranes?
Short answer is no. SLUs cannot be bonded to the top of these membranes.
Can they go under click vinyl or wood floors?
Yes, they definitely can go under click engineered wood. Same caveat for the vinyl. If it's because of the seams, we don't want the seams telegraphing up through vinyl. So probably okay with a hard vinyl click floor. Would want to be cautious about soft vinyl. Again, the seams would need to be tight up against each other, no overlap, no gap.
Cool. Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions coming in on the chat box, again, we can always send them to MAPEI Digital at mapei.com, especially that sports flooring project question. If you come up with that, we can find out some more. Oh, here's another one. Sean, what are you making us for dinner? You guys, all right. This has been a really great webinar.
And email me directly and we can deal with that offline. but it's going to be good.
Guys, we know that you guys have busy days, and we really thank you for taking the time out to join us here. And again, if you do have other questions besides food, you can always send them to us at mapeidigital@mapei.com, and we'll be happy to answer them. And thank you again for a really great webinar, guys. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks
Right?
everyone for your time.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.